Admiral Sam Paparo, Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific. Admiral Paparo commands the oldest and largest of our combatant commands, U.S. Indo-Pacific. 380,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians are under his command. In an area of responsibility that spans, as General Brown would say, from Hollywood to Bollywood and from polar bears to penguins. 52% of the Earth's surface, 60% of the Earth's population. And I would offer that in the Pacific century, he is the right leader for the moment. He personifies excellence in the Joint Force, and I'm fairly certain that he is the only person on this planet that has over 1,100 carrier landings on an aircraft carrier as a naval aviator, and has also commanded a provincial reconstruction team in Afghanistan. So, sir, thank you for your service to the Joint Force, for the example you provide to us every day, and for being my colleague and friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Sam Paparo.
Aloha. Aloha. It's great to see everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ron, my dear friend, for the warm introduction. I think Governor Green has decamped for the State House, but thank you for his very warm remarks, too, from the heart, as ever it is with Josh Green. Aloha to General Bob Brown. Thanks very much again. Great to see you again, sir. President of AUSA and most notably a former USAPAC commander, the surfing general. Thank you, and AUSA for hosting this world-class event. I imagine there was another surfing general in a movie once, was there not? Okay, Roger. Aloha to our allies and partners, too. We have delegations from, I think, 27 nations, or was it 32 nations? 33 nations, forgive me, including Army chiefs from 14. And as Bob said, this is, for all of us in the room, each and every one of us, the asymmetric advantage that we have against our would-be adversaries is this friendship, this network of alliances and partnerships. And to our government leaders, flag general officers, industry leaders, community leaders, innovators, university scholars, and recruiters, we need you guys. Thanks very much for joining us. And finally, and most importantly, a heartfelt aloha to all of our service members of the Joint Force, the backbone of our national defense. Welcome all. I want to talk for about 10 minutes, and then we'll go into questions and answers. I think that's where really the real heart of the matter is. Before going any further, though, just in a little over a month's time, the nation will celebrate 250 years of the United States Army. Please, to all of our Army soldiers, happy birthday in advance. As discussed, we're facing a profoundly consequential moment here in the Indo-Pacific and accordingly in the world. China's on a dangerous course, from aggressive maneuvers around Taiwan, rehearsals, not exercises. Last year we witnessed China conducted more joint rehearsals than I've seen in X years of service, 38 for me. On a single day, the People's Liberation Army deployed 152 warships, including 3/4 of their amphibious force. 43 brigades conducted combined arms breaching operations, wet gap crossings, and follow-on maneuver to operations in urban terrain on a single day. And simultaneously, we witnessed the furthest ranging combined exercises between China and Russia, and North Korea tested its largest ICBM, potentially capable of reaching anywhere in the continental United States. More concerning is the fact that China, Russia, North Korea, among others, have formed a transactional symbiosis that threatens regional stability. The threat's particularly acute and increasingly interconnected across our global supply chains, which is again why I so appreciated some of the preparation material here and the focus. And this combined with rapid technological advances in autonomous systems, AI, hypersonics, and big data, this is all very concerning. They demand a coordinated, joint, and combined response, which is why we fight as an integrated, joint, and combined force with allies and partners. So I want to talk a little bit today about the Army, how meaningful land forces are to maneuver. You know, our doctrine notes 7 joint functions of the joint force, and all of them are equally important. But when I'm asked by land forces, and specifically Army, they say, "Hey, what do you need from the Army?" As if it was only a few of these joint functions that we need from the United States Army. And so I think it's usually a shock when I talk about the key of fires, the king of battle, integrated air and missile defense, sustainment, and all of the other joint functions: intelligence, information, command and control, maneuver, protection, all to a very great extent are intertwined with those joint functions. And so, it was brought up earlier by Bob and by Ron, is that yes, the region is named after oceans, but human beings live on the land. They don't live anywhere else unless we grow gills. I think that's gone the other way. And it's just absolutely essential that all of the joint force are intertwined in our joint functions. And in fact, it's joint fires that are the king of battle, and they're provided by everyone. Deterrence is our highest duty, a theme that you heard from both Bob and Ron. And deterrence is that combination of capability and will, and your would-be adversary's knowledge of that demonstrates to them that the potential cost of aggression far outweighs the benefits. So first I want to talk a little bit about the king of battle and fires. And that's the first answer that I give when somebody says, "What do you want out of the Army?" There is no service that has a monopoly on fires, and every service is indispensable to success and to deterrence, and deterrence must also always be backed up by the real capability to fight and win. The ability to deliver fast, accurate, lethal fires across domains is fundamental. And in the Taiwan Strait, we've got this trap of base 2 thinking, 1 or 0. To prevent a Taiwan invasion, we don't necessarily need immediate maritime or air superiority in the Taiwan Strait. We just must deny its use to the PLA for the use of its aggression. And the Army's fires capability, integrated with the other joint force, is essential to deny that zone by imposing devastating costs across the PLA. About a decade ago, at this Land Pact, 2016, General Brown was the USAPAC commander. Then PACOM commander, Admiral Harry Harris, challenged the crowd to sink ships, neutralize satellites, shoot down missiles, and deny the enemy's command and control. And the Army responded decisively with the creation of multi-domain task forces. Multi-domain task forces in the field now, as I utter these words, in commission now, represent the centerpiece of this response, bringing land-based counter, command control, communications, computers, and information surveillance, reconnaissance, and targeting capabilities. And this fundamentally alters the strategic calculus in the contested environment. Operating as nodes of Indo-PACOM's joint fires network, the first and third MDTFs contribute sensing capabilities across terrestrial, air, stratospheric, and space layers, enhancing our ability to mass fires and effects precisely at the time and place of our choosing. The precision strike missile, PRISM, is a game changer that fundamentally alters China's risk calculus too. This is a matter of record. With ranges from 500 kilometers to 750 kilometers and further, PRISM does and will allow us to strike critical nodes within China's anti-axis area denial bubble, radar sites, missile launchers, command centers, potentially neutralizing them before the conflict begins. I've personally observed PRISM capabilities during Valiant Shield, where we successfully employed it from an autonomous multi-domain launcher in Palau. The Typhon mid-range capability combines SM-6, maritime strike Tomahawks and Tomahawks on a common platform, providing mobility and flexibility throughout the area of responsibility. And meanwhile, the long-range hypersonic weapon adds a strategic layer to our deterrent posture. These capabilities, along with space, cyber, electronic warfare functions, operate from key terrain in the first island chain and near strategic maritime choke points, creating distributed, survivable, persistent, and lethal effects. That's why FIRES is the capability from the Army and from Land Force that I most treasure in this region. Protection and integrated air and missile defense. This is absolutely critical as well. The missile threat in the Indo-Pacific is growing in both quantity and sophistication. China continues developing advanced missile systems, including hypersonics. North Korea has demonstrated its capability to launch multiple ballistic missiles simultaneously. Our integrated air and missile defense, our shield against these threats, must be resilient, adaptive, responsive to evolving challenges. While our allies share common threats, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. We must have a constellation of like-minded nations with the ability to cooperate and maintain resilient supply chains as well. From US to Japan, from the Republic of Korea, Australia, to our ASEAN partners, to our partners in the Indian Ocean. Our region's strength lies in our ability to interoperate. Integrated air and missile defense is about interoperability, and by connecting these defense systems, sharing intelligence, and coordinating responses, we create a common operating picture and then accordingly a combined defense shield. Strengthening IAMD depends heavily on Army Patriot, on THAAD, and the Army's absolutely indispensable and central contributions to the Guam defense system, exemplifying IAMD's importance and serving as a vanguard for homeland defense and innovative technologies. The third of the functions that I'll discuss is sustainment. We attribute five-star Omer Bradley by saying amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk logistics. I think there was a fellow from France that said that once as well. Success in any contingency, that's Napoleon, by the way. An army travels on its stomach, something like that. All right. Success in any contingency depends on robust logistics network that can withstand sophisticated attacks while supporting distributed operations. In this AOR, effective sustainment isn't just important, it's existential. AI is revolutionizing sustainment, enabling us to proactively replenish our warfighters, to see in advance and to push logistics. And by employing AI, we're anticipating requirements against all classes of supply, including fuel, ammunition, missiles, and identifying optimal delivery methods, particularly in contested environments. The Army's role in theater-wide sustainment cannot be overstated. As the Department of Defense's executive agent for much of our logistics enterprise, Army provides the backbone of our ability to sustain combat power across the region. And US Indo-PACOM continues to develop joint theater distribution concepts These operational support areas serve as critical logistics nodes with the Army's expertise absolutely central to establishing and operating these critical nodes. The Army's theater opening capabilities provide the foundation for receiving, staging, and integrating forces across the theater. And in exercise, Salak Nib, Balakatan, Cobra Gold, Talisman Saber, Super Garuda Shield, Bersama Warrior, among many, many others. Army logisticians demonstrate these capabilities in ensuring the Joint Force can rapidly transition from competition to crisis to conflict. The challenges we face in the Indo-Pacific are formidable, but not insurmountable. The Army's contribution to the joint functions are transformative and inspiring. But we all must do more, faster, better, smarter, more enabled by AI tools. And we need to do it now. Need to do it yesterday, but we need to do it now. Deterrence remains our highest duty, backed by real, credible combat power. Exactly what our joint force delivers, exactly what land forces deliver. Thanks all for everything that you do, and it will be my honor to take some questions. Thank you.
Sir, if it's okay, I'm going to kick things off with the first question.
Yes, please. A gentleman, and there was a live participant that is ready to go.
Hello, sir. I'm the military attaché from the Netherlands here in the US, Peter Nieuwenhuis, Colonel. I have a question about your ideas about the role of partners and allies in your region. And I do not mean the role of partners and allies present in your region, but for example, in Europe, like the Netherlands, and in competition, crisis, and conflict.
Thank you, sir. The first is that the first thing I think that it's very important to acknowledge is that we tend to talk about the Indo-Pacific, we tend to talk about Europe as if the world was suborganized on the United States' unified command plan, when the world and history has other opinions on the matter too. Because as we're talking about our alliances and partnerships, if you're in this room, we're really talking about market democracies. We're talking about countries that are committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific and world. And here we notice that increasingly threats are global. They are interconnected. Events in one continent have a great bearing on events in others. We have deep friendships that enable us to share information. And so I think that, as we talked about earlier, that our alliances and partnerships are indispensable to our success and our key asymmetric advantage. It's important to not draw so tight a distinction between parts of the world. As I utter these words, Russian, an Indo-Pacific power, North Korean, an Indo-Pacific country, are now operating together in Ukraine, and events there will have an effect on deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. There are key lessons being learned worldwide, which, if we ignore them, will have been a dereliction of duty. So taking on board every lesson learned that we possibly can. And whenever we operate together, we demonstrate the solidarity of our alliances and partnerships. And that has 2, 3, 10x quality on our deterrence. Thank you so much for your question.
Admiral, Ken Kreitzer, CamVets Media. We're in White Plains, New York. I just want to ask you about the the interview you did in 2023 on 60 Minutes with Norah O'Donnell that really brought the challenge of the Indo-Pacific to the American public. I just wondered if you have thoughts that would update what you said 2 years ago on 60 Minutes.
Well, 2 or 3 years ago, I think that one of the main points that I wanted to make in the interview was that while we are identifying threats and the growing capability of those that would change the status quo by force, I and we still remain confident in our ability to prevail. And we should make no mistake about that. What we are buying down is the bill. And the bill is in people, capability, money, and time. And we are buying margin by pacing our enemies. And when we pay close attention to events, when we pay close attention to what they're doing, and we raise the alarm among ourselves, we're running to problems. And running to the problems and that introspection is, in fact, what's going to enable us to pace the threat. So that was kind of the main theme within that interview. It was specifically focused on the United States Navy, but I think you see this in the narrative across all of our services, is the need to pace our would-be adversaries in our capability. And we sometimes mistake the challenges, and we apply this fatalistic culture to it, as if our would-be adversaries say that we're a declining power, despite a growing economy, a growing population, and on the forefront of innovation in almost every area, and we take up that narrative. And so I think that while identifying problems to run to, it's also very important to demonstrate to ourselves, to those we lead, our confidence. And it is our ability to run to problems and to be honest with ourselves that does give us that confidence. Not everybody can bring bad news to the boss, but if you're in this room, you're in a force that can bring bad news to your boss, and the boss will link arms with you and say, let's run to that problem together. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Admiral Paparo, Ginger Cruz from Manton International.
Oh, forgive me. How do you do?
Could you just discuss briefly what kind of changes we should see in the joint forces due to the great advancements in space? We're now talking about low Earth orbit satellites that are changing how we view submarines and land forces and sea forces. We see Russia and North Korea really advancing. How is that shifting perhaps or feeding into your strategies for the Indo-Pacific? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ginger. First, I speak of and I acknowledge that the very first battle in any conflict will take place in space and cyber. And that's because the very first battle is a battle for information superiority. And the proliferation in low Earth orbit, middle Earth orbit, high Earth orbit, and geosynchronous orbit of both the United States and our allies and partners, about a half a generation ahead of the PRC, enjoying 90% of the world's space lift, soon to be 99.9+% of the world's space lift. It is critically important to maintain this highest of high grounds, to do so in a way that is treaty compliant, that does not weaponize space, and we are absolutely dedicated to our commitment to not weaponize space, but the use of space to enable us to achieve information superiority, that ability to see, understand, decide, act, assess, and learn over our would-be adversaries. Our adversaries have proliferated a great deal in space. In the last 4 years, I've seen approximately 5x growth from the People's Republic of China in space. And so winning this race, prevailing in this race, this competition, and it's a race that has no end. We're always in constant generations of overmatch with our would-be adversaries. That's the nature of deterrence. That's the nature of the evolution and innovation within our technologies. So to continue to leverage our proliferation in LEO efforts, many private companies are in this space, and that ability to employ that capability to enhance our information advantage and our ability to defend that constellation, and that ability to ensure that our would-be adversaries can't use space in order to prevail across the allies. That counter space capability is really just absolutely key. The first battle is space and cyber. That's the ability to execute information warfare, most specifically to see and understand what's going on between the Kármán line and the surface, and that's where human beings are, and then to use that information to outpace our would-be adversaries. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Celia Powell from Department of Defense, Office of Inspector General. I wanted to know if you could expound upon how you believe that AI tools can enhance our interoperability and deterrence as we move forward.
Thank you, Celia. So I'll give you an anecdote, and that anecdote is that let's say that we're having an exercise and General Clark walks in the morning, and in this exercise, we are exercising our most stressing operational plan. And General Clark goes in, he goes to the Ops and Intel meeting, and all of his codes tell him what's going on across 8 Napoleonic codes around our would-be adversaries, the environment, and ourselves. And then he has his commander's update brief. And in his commander's update brief, all of his commanders are also giving him a similar briefing of what's going on. And then there comes this moment when everybody has told General Clark exactly what they have to tell him. And now they all stare at him and say, okay, boss, what do we do? And he has a deep database to call on. You know, he's got 38 years in the Army command at every level leading up to USARPAC, 4-star Army command. He's read extensively. Has he read everything? Has he read everything ever written in Mandarin, in Russian? Has he read every war game that's been conducted in open source, on CyberNet at our highest levels of intelligence? No. That's all data that he does not have access to. But a large language model that has got access to that and can use that as a massive lookup table, and with the right prompts, General Clark can enhance his own indispensable experience with something that a machine can do way faster with access to more data than he's ever had. Now I'll step down a level, and now we talked about our joint functions. And so you've got intel, which is what is your would-be adversary doing? Your information, what do they know? Command and control, the ability to turn commander's intent into action. Maneuvering to a location, employing a fire, doing so under the right conditions of protection, and then sustaining the force, all in a contested environment, to optimize each step along the way, to affect the counter C5ISR effects it takes to take space that you can maneuver in, either to fire or to sustain. This is not going to be achieved this can be achieved at a staffing table among Napoleonic codes, but think of how you can do the multiple objective linear programming to understand how each affects the other to come up with optimal solutions among it all. And then finally, I'll take us down a layer, and that would be on the tactical edge, and the ability to employ hundreds, thousands of unmanned, inexpensive vehicles that either employ ordnance or they themselves become ordnance, to have that compute on the edge, to execute that with human oversight. All of these are absolutely essential applications at the strategic level. What are we doing at the strategic level? At the operational level, how are we linking these functions? And on the edge, which is How do we never send a human being to do something that a machine could do? We never lose human agency over offensive power. And when we are at risk, then we have the ability, the moral duty to put all of our compute power in order to defend against salvos that are coming at us. And who employs the better models faster, more extensively across the force, that make it habits of mind and habits of action where we can learn from each other, is going to win this race. And we must be backed up by the best AI tools, informed by the best data, informed by the best compute. And so these are the applications in the 21st century of AI as they support not just our own decision making, but autonomous system. We're in a race and we'll win. Thank you, Celia.
Admiral Mick Bednarik, Flora Corporation. Sir, great to see you again. And again, thanks for joining us. I was taken by your remarks earlier regarding logistics. Clearly in this theater, and Ron certainly knows, and Bob before him, Charlie Flynn, etc., the tyranny of distance that we have across your combatant command. Similar to Mike Langley and AFRICOM, you just can't get there from here, that last tactical mile, so to speak. You talked about the joint theater logistics nodes around the AOR, but quite honestly, logistics remains our Achilles heel, and in our allies and partners here, we struggle with this as a matter of routine. All of our exercises, our rehearsals, and you highlighted many of the exercises you are personally familiar with, and everybody else here. But in the audience here, for all of us, you have a lot of the defense industrial base. So the question for you, and certainly your component commanders that quite honestly are the requirements generators up to you, how can we in the defense industrial base help you, help the theater as we shape this tyranny of distance and the logistics nodes and the challenges as we face for the longer term future? Sir, thanks.
Thank you, sir. First is that I'm always trying to cheat the TIPFID, TIPFID, time, phase, force deployment. And so always trying to forward position as much materials, 9 classes of supply, as we possibly can, so that when the unforgiving hour comes, we're not on our back foot. So to have X days of supply on hand forward that comports with our posture plan. Posture is that combination of the right quantity and right capability of forces, along with the bases, places, and airfields, ports, piers, repair facilities distributed throughout the theater. So pre-position is a first important element. Next is the joint sustainment force, whether that's a material command, air mobility command, military sea lift command, and the so-called unsexy stuff that are a sine qua non, a without which not. The combat logistics force, the gray tails, and across all domains, our ability to move force is how do we make what we have readier, more ready? As I utter these words, I think there are 17 military sea lift command ships laid up because of personnel. They're presumably materially ready. How many maintenance delays do we have on this? What's the availability of our tanker fleet and our cargo fleet? Our C-17s. And so finding creative solutions to make what we have more ready, more responsive, and then what are the kind of capabilities next? Console tanking, craft, the employment of whitetails, innovative contract services that will enable us to close those gaps and really just the ability to build out a more robust sustainment force. So in summary, pre-PO, maintenance of the current capability, creative solutions in order to increase our capacity. Our would-be adversaries study the Second World War, and I give them great credit for their scholarship. And when they do, they universally come up with the conclusion that it was the logistics force that was the winning key advantage in the Second World War. And that was over a tyranny of distance, as you so stated. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for helping us kick off LAMPAC. Let's give Admiral Paparo a big round of applause.